Today, I'm joined by Oliver, one of our head coaches here at MOTUM Studio. We dive into his background in soccer, how he discovered Fighting Monkey and the journey that he's been on, and how it's become a way of living his life. You're going to love this episode. Meet Ollie, understand him a little better, and let's get into it. Welcome, Oliver.
Welcome.
I'm so excited to officially do this and for our community to hear a little bit more about you and your story.
Yeah.
First question, I want to know if there is a daily ritual or something that you do that maybe keeps you grounded. It could be something a little bit quirky that's in your day so people can get to know you a little better.
Yeah, all right. It's a good question to start. There's probably a few. Obviously, we move a lot, but I wouldn't say it's actually movement because some days I move less. I think it's actually gone just past 7 years without missing a day of having a cold shower.
Wow.
And up until recently, when I had the time in Greece, time away with my mentors, when I got back, I got sick, like late in the trips, and that was the first time in 7 years. So I still start on warm. I'm not nuts about it, but finish a few minutes on cold, and I've got like a little shaking routine, like tapping of different body parts and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the other thing, I think I've always managed in my schedule, like some time outside and a gap to like eat a good lunch at home at some point in the day. That's a priority.
That good lunch.
Yeah. Food, that lunchtime, some downtime to like slow down has always been like a big priority, whether it's for soccer or with work or anything.
Let's touch on the cold shower quickly. Are you fully under? Like head is under? We're going right under for how many minutes?
I think because that's the quirky bit. Like there's a little shaking routine, the stomach, shake the legs, like lean the chest back.
Yeah.
If I'm home along, there'll be music and singing. But if it's early in the morning, not quite.
Yeah.
It's a few minutes fully under to end, and it's just I've eased off on like ice baths and those things, and kind of like sense when my body needs or wants it. So the view's changed a little bit, but I've definitely stuck with at least a couple minutes.
And why?
To finish the
I mean,
shower.
I feel like we know why, but for you, why?
For me, it actually was. So say it's been 7 years or so. It was like around an April, May time where I got sick. Not bad, but just had like that annoying cough and low energy. And I remember like not training a couple times at soccer. And I just remember thinking like it had been, I reckon the 2.5, like 3 week mark, and it hadn't gone away. I was listening to podcasts. So I had heard about cold showers and the immune system. And I was like, I just don't want a sickness or cold to last this long, like ever again. So I'm going to start it. Then it felt good. You obviously feel that lift of energy, the mental clarity, immune system, all of the good stuff. But that really started it. And then it's actually nice when you come out of the shower finishing that. When you come out of like a hot shower, I'll do that at night.
Yeah.
But in the morning, you're like, don't want to get out, and you still feel a little bit slow. So it's just stuck. Yeah. Nice. And there you go.
And I feel like you have been sharing a little bit more on your socials, or that's where I see it, with your lunches. And it's pretty impressive. Like you eat very clean. I know that you and your parents, you go to the markets.
Yeah.
Share a little bit more with me just about the lunch stuff. Like when you sit down, and you do, I know you take time to sit down as well every single day. Yeah.
Definitely. So I definitely, in and amongst busier times, that's still a priority. Yeah, I try not to eat on the go or in the car or things like that. Sometimes I'll find myself still on the phone or busy, but that is a priority because it probably started even all of this stuff, whether it's like movement, the philosophy, the nutrition. I think I'm lucky that I had soccer, so it was kind of that led by I would just want to perform well and feel optimal all the time. But I just think, especially because mum's Italian and dad's Greek, there's just that like cultural, like slow down, eat good food. Yeah, we're lucky, and I'm grateful that we do go to the farmer's market and get local produce. And mum and dad recently did up the family home, so there's like a bigger garden and we're growing food again. So I feel like that's kind of like almost reconnected like back to the roots of which actually you do very well as well. You've got a good garden, you go to the farmer's market, so similar, but it's reconnected to like how my grandparents on Italian and Greek side just had so many veggies all the time, seasonal. all the older generation, they never did anything in a rush, you know.
Nice and slow.
So that amongst a busy schedule and days and weeks, that's a pretty grounding thing that I prioritize for sure.
No, and I think I would have to thank you because a little bit of that has rubbed off on me as well. And we'll get into it a little bit more now because I know that for you, and you say it a lot, like this movement practice isn't just, you know, in the studio. It's not just what you're doing on your own. You like to take bits and pieces of it and integrate it in everything that you do in your life. So let's start. Let's go back so people can really get to know you. Like Oliver, you know, young Oliver, 10 plus years ago, playing soccer, and then how you first came across Fighting Monkey and your mentors. And then let's just go through that bit of initial stages of who you are.
Let's try and do that. What's the time frame?
Right, we got time.
So, like I kind of said initially with the food, it was definitely initiated by soccer. So I'm lucky that I just had the goals and aspirations to try and make that a career. So I was always, and I wasn't as technically gifted as some of the other players I played with. So it was I always relied on, or not relied on, but I thought, well, I'm not as technically gifted. So how can I be as quick as possible, as fit as possible, recover as well as possible? And it's I can practice some skills and techniques, but what are the other things I can do differently that give me an edge or keep me at a standard? And then, that's just become and just led into then every other area of life and a philosophy now. So I was a stiff, immobile, rigid soccer player. I'm lucky that I've grown up around, my mum was a masseuse in a chiropractic clinic with Chinese medicine and stuff. So I feel over the years of being so rigid and tight, because I had some form of checking in and staying in alignment, I didn't have too many bad injuries, touch wood. And then from there actually was a point which would have been around 2015 or 16, where I had a little niggle on the inside of the knee that towards the end of the season, I missed maybe 2 games. It was hurting during running, and so I stopped. Then I got passed on to someone who was a movement coach who's in Adelaide. And then his name's Rob Schultz. He ended up a close mentor in that movement space. And within 3-4 weeks of just doing I couldn't squat. I couldn't do a Cossack squat.
I feel like no one's going to believe this. There's no footage of this.
We need to put some imitation footage together, because if I could wind the clock back.
Show me how bad your squat would be.
I don't know what will fit in the camera, but if I go side, a squat with a grunting face would have been
yeah, and that's it.
I'm not sure, that's it. And I'm reaching, arms out.
Yeah, so no one that knows you now would believe
exactly
that.
This was no chance. And then the Cossack squat was classic, like a soccer player. You can stay there. It was like this. And I'd feel my hips. I'm why is my knee tight?
Okay.
So that was the starting point for sure. And then that was probably 2 years worth of movement training, mobility, that functional strength, some rotation work with kettlebells and some soccer specific stuff. And then one of my best mates, Luke Sebastiani, he was overseas for 6 months. We went to the same school, a few year levels apart, and his last 2 days overseas before returning to Adelaide was a Fighting Monkey workshop.
Yes.
We were in touch. I had seen him, and I had started to do some Ido Portal stuff, and these movement things were popping up online a little bit. And then he got back and we just started sharing what I had been learning, what he had been learning. The Fighting Monkey stuff was really fresh on his mind. And he was just man, I've just done this workshop. I just want to share as much as I can with you, see what you think. And I was just this makes sense for life, athletically. And it was initially classic for this is going to help my soccer performance, definitely. So it was driven by that as well. And then over the years, so that was 2017.
And for those people who don't know what Fighting Monkey is, maybe let's just quickly touch on that. I know that's a big loaded question, but there'll be people listening going,
I don't even know if Joseph and Linda would be able to answer it.
It's the same thing as MOTUM. It's what is,
it's the best
so many
question.
Things. But
and
maybe just explaining who Joseph and Linda are and
So Joseph and Linda are a husband and wife who created Fighting Monkey, and they have just this broad mix. So it's a movement practice that tries to resemble what life is and nature is in a physical practice. So testing rhythm, coordination, how well we communicate, how well my joints and organs communicate, how well I communicate with others, with myself, and really that lens of life is unpredictable and unknown. So if my physical practice or training resembles that, then I'm better equipped for the obstacles I'll face in life.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy the obstacles and navigate them with a little bit more freedom and joy. So it's not like my training is, I do my squats and I deadlifts and I know my sets and reps, and then I end up in a problem or a stressful situation in my life and it's unpredictable, it's unknown, it's not linear, and it's changing direction and evolving, and we lose the capacity to step in different directions when needed. That's
good explanation.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah. It changes every time.
And then after, Luke came back and showed you what he'd been up to, then what was your next step of diving into all of this?
So that year, within like a couple months, I think, because they were coming to Australia, 2016, 17, 18 and 19. So it was within a couple months, and I didn't go to the workshop that they did when they were here. Luke went. So then he came back again, had all the new material and up-to-date stuff. So we trained, like, we're talking 5-6 days a week, like 2.5, nearly 3 hours a day.
Wow.
We're just in that chapter of, weren't busy with work or anything yet. It was like our study. I was still prioritizing soccer, so we had the time. Because there was so much learning, I was like falling asleep in the afternoon and like napping because my brain was just cooking. And then 2018, they came again, and that was the first time where I went. I think it was in Sydney that year, a 2-day workshop, their 5-day retreat. 2019 again, a 2-day workshop in Melbourne, a 5-day retreat in Perth, and then just recently again was the recent trip because they hadn't come back to Australia since then. So once I got to meet them in person and really like build on some concepts, that led into 2020. And then us Australian practitioners during COVID, that was when we did the mentorship. So that's with Joseph. Linda doesn't run that. That's run by Joseph. And it's the students that really want to deep dive into it. Some do it for their own curiosity. Some do it because they want to teach it. And that's like the philosophy, the science, the new studies around it, the new concepts, theories and ideas. And that's like a 10 to 12 month process.
Wow.
And we did it as a group with a few of us who were based in Australia, which was cool.
And so over that year then you're doing your own practice each day, you're then checking in and learning, you're like having to present stuff to them, or like how does it
the
work?
Mentorship is pretty unique, definitely. So it's that, 10 to 12 month. I think maybe ours crept over a little bit. And then each month they do like a Zoom meeting, a couple hours or 90 minutes. One's like the theory, the philosophy and the science. And then a slightly shorter one is like the physical, what it resembles, but almost like homework tasks. And then it's up to us every day or weekly, like uploading videos, sending them, getting feedback. He has someone who's a really close student, Natalia, who also joins in, gives her perspective, speaks in some of the meetings. And it's kind of like what you put into it, you get out.
Amazing.
So there's some people, not quite me, because it would go up and down, but when I was just with them, they were saying that some students just send like 2-3 hours of footage like every day for feedback and soak it up. And whatever you give, they give exactly that back. You send through your notes for the month, so you recap them. There's a whole heap of tasks. Yeah.
And then after that, you then started working with people one-on-one, like you've been doing this for so long now, and talking about some of those one-on-ones, and then I want to get to how we met. So go the one-on-ones first.
All right,
like,
we can go there.
You know, you've been working with people in your garage. It's been pretty cool to see.
It's been, up and down, but definitely a good little journey to where we are now, obviously. It was probably maybe 4 years ago with the movement coach Rob that I first came across. That was based out of just a CrossFit gym. So I just started to learn to become a coach there, help with like the kids classes, took over some of the adult classes. They were supportive, and I built up one-on-ones in that space. Some of the kids, because the parents who got to know me thought, this makes sense for athleticism and for my kids and the playfulness aspects, all of that kind of stuff. That was for a couple years. And I was there for 4 years, but a couple years of the one-on-ones and building that up. Then I actually stopped the one-on-ones. Then it was start of last year, I went more into like, I want to do workshops and group stuff. That was when I launched the classes at Bloom.
I went to a few of those classes.
Yeah, where you came to a few of those classes, the workshop, the opening day, so that was cool. And then from there, the one-on-one started to creep in like throughout last year. The group stuff, as we know, would come like up and down seasonally, and with events it'd just be different numbers fluctuating all the time. And then it's always mixed in with soccer, mixed in with nutrition. And over the years, people ask, depending on what they want, they might go, oh, Ollie, can we do some sessions but mix in more of the mobility aspect? Or, oh, can we do sessions but I want to do more of the partner stuff with the practice ball? Or some people just want to sit and talk and know the philosophy so they can manage with their stress better in their lives. Or some people ask about the food. So then that's just for the last probably couple years. It's been fun because at least there's some repertoire we have. And for me, the food, writing, philosophy, the fighting monkey practice and everything, it kind of like encapsulates. I can talk and guide and help and teach in like a diverse range of things.
Yeah.
So it just ebbs and flows depending on what people want and need and what they're curious about.
The worlds collide. Take me back.
So it was initially when MOTUM launched the Instagram page.
Yes.
So like right from the start, however it popped up, because I think I was maybe following Physio Smart.
Yeah, at the time.
Because I was like, oh, at least they were sharing, like there's a bit of a movement approach. Mm-hmm. So I was following that. And then it was like MOTUM Movement. I was like, oh my God, there's finally someone in Adelaide is like cracking the lens somewhere. So I had followed along with that. Then it was a couple years ago when I finally put together the email and reached out to Matt and said, I love what you guys are doing. I have similar like core principles and philosophies about how we should move and live and create healthy, happy humans. And then like the PD schedule was pretty booked. So it was like pushed back for a little bit. I reckon until then it took like a year or so, or like 6 to 9 months, something like that.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. And then finally did it. You had started to explore, I guess, like some of the Edo stuff and a bit. Enough, or you were straight away, at least like in that session. Yeah. I remember you saying when we caught up after, like from that moment, you and Matt were both like, Ollie's doing something good and we need to keep him in mind.
Loved it. You came in with, the team of physios. And I remember going through some of the like whole body waves with you. We did some of the work with the practice ball. Yeah. We did some more, like creative exploration stuff. And I remember it was at a time where like
that's what I was
cracking of the lens, it has to be that kind of analogy.
What was the time? Like what stage were you at?
Yeah, it was when I was getting out of this whole like linear idea of exercising. I had been like in the realm of Pilates and yoga and going to HIIT gyms, and I was in that, but it was I couldn't like stop looking. It was just going and then you came in and did that and I was like, oh, this is what it should be. It really touched on some of those explorative principles, and you were talking about fascial lines and just the whole body rotating and being nurtured and working together. And so I remember it was at probably like a little apex where things were tipping one way. So I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Timing. Just happened at the right time. And then from there, you guys had just kept it kind of like in the back of the mind. I kept chipping away. You guys were building up everything as well. And then this conversation started start of last year.
Last year, I think.
You had said. I think that was the first time when we caught up and you said, oh, we're looking at opening
a
studio. Yeah, exactly.
Which, for those of you that know, has been such a long time coming. And we've had so many catch-ups over a coffee and I think just frothing, like both of us talking about the same subjects, getting hyped, getting so excited, wanting to share this with the Adelaide community. And it was just about finding the right space. And then making it happen. And we've been so happy to have you on board. So good. So happy to be on board. To be working with you guys. It's crazy. And we're now 3 weeks into the studio opening. And I think it doesn't get shown on social media, like all the hard work that has gone into the last year and the sessions that we've done together, planning the complexity of these classes and trying to make it the best experience for our members. But I want, you as a head coach here to maybe just share what the last couple of weeks have been like, some of the people that you've met, what it's,
exactly. It's so surreal. Sometimes, kind of like we've said, it almost doesn't feel real. If you had told me we'd be the core team coaching in like Adelaide's first movement-based studio, I I would have taken it then and there. So the first couple of weeks has just been so good to see all the people come through the door, entering the space. They're just all the values we want. Everyone's just open, they're curious, they're just keen to try, keen to learn. They all are happy with like a mix of everything. They know there's that like diversity piece to move in a range of different ways. Everyone's coming to a mix of classes. They're not just picking one thing and sticking to it. Yeah, we're laughing. We get to share all the gems we've had just like bottled in our brains for so long. So I still feel like there's a few months of just like vomit and blabble to like come out. So there's like enough space again to learn again and teach new stuff. Yeah, it's kind of just like this little release valve where it's just like, I can like get rid of it. There's a platform to share it, people to share it with. Just seeing people love it and feel good. You're just like, we're doing the right stuff. And it's the way not that there's a way we should go about it. Yeah. Of course. But it's just like, this is valuable and there's something special to it for sure.
Yeah. And I think anyone who's been lucky enough to come into your classes, whether that be like a flow class, mobility, or your Fortis class, the strength classes, has been really lucky to share some of your wisdom, and you're very grounded in the way that you teach, and you've got a lot to give. So I think people have lots to learn if they're willing to spend the time here and work on it. And you said something really nice yesterday, and I remember saying to you,
I was thinking about it. We needed it recorded.
It was one of our members had said something at the end of the session.
It was his first class?
Yeah.
Or he had done the open day, but first class in the studio?
Yeah, and he said something along the lines of, what did he say?
It was something around like valuing and that perception. He was thinking there's been a slight change maybe where people have gone to the gym.
Yes.
And like... it's heavy weights, like reps to failure to build muscle or along those lines.
Yeah. So if I ask you the question again and I say that idea of like I always have to push myself to 150% to failure, what do you say to them?
I think my first words were it just depends on your intention with the training. It's kind of like, and I'm lucky that with Fighting Monkey, Joseph and Linda, they've just been that completely humble like mentors where there is no right or wrong, no bad form of training. It's like, what are you passionate about? What do you love? And go do that because you want to. So it was definitely the intention. I was saying if you want to compete at a high level and go to the Olympics, lift the heavy weights. Yeah. If you want to increase your protein every day because you're heading into summer and you want to put on muscle mass, do the reps to failure because it works, and it does. But if you want to feel free in your body, enjoy your body, not be in pain, have good energy, not cook your nervous system and recover well and live well, then this is perfect, you know? Yeah.
That's a sustainable way of training here. And there has been some people that have been here 6 days a week. Yeah. I think we're seeing it, like they can come to the classes each day and feel good and feel not good. Too cooked.
Yeah, not too cooked. They're building, like we say, the strength, the coordination, all of the stuff, but in that sustainable way we always talk about, you know? Exactly.
And I would like to know from you, going into this year, if there's anything personally that you're working on movement-wise, it'll be good for the community to hear what you're
a little
doing.
Goal.
Yeah, a little goal.
Yeah. It's a funny one. When I went on to, it was a couple of weeks ago, the MOTUM website, and I just looked at the page because someone had asked the question. And I think my movement goal was just to like build rhythm, coordinate my body as well as possible to move like a professional dancer, or it was something like that. So my movement goals or aspirations are kind of intangible, but it's just definitely to build as much openness and rhythm in the body to move in as many ways as possible, as freely and smoothly as possible. That's just like a continuous journey. Yeah.
And coming back from Greece, for those of you who don't know, Ollie was over in Greece with the Fighting Monkey mentors just before the studio opened. Like literally the week.
How's the timing? I don't know if it was actually perfect timing because we weren't open or...
No, it was perfect timing because you came back,
of course,
as excited as ever. But what were the main things that you learnt over in the most recent trip?
I know. And I know this has been the bit that's most confusing, or can be for people over the time. But with the fighting monkey practice, and that has, inspired nearly all of what I share and do, I definitely keep wanting to communicate that it's like a philosophy and like a way of viewing and interacting with life. So it's not like we'll always say the 1 hour class is here. It's, do you like smile with the barista? Do you hug your parents? Do you tell the people close to you that you love them? And all of the above. So it definitely reiterated that in terms of like, what are the different ways to know what our habits are, what our tendencies are, what we need on a day-to-day, and how much that varies, and just like attuning to that and sensing that a little bit clearer, like without an aura ring or anything like that in our bodies, and building that level of communication to understand ourselves. In terms of like the physical practice, for me, the biggest takeaway was this: how we deal with life and stress to build, they were calling it, and Joseph was calling it, like our solution space. So like, how many solutions do we have for the obstacles we face in everyday life, and the different ways and the unique ways of testing that in the physical practice. So there's like the zero forms or the joint mobility stuff on the feet, and it's like, oh, I'm feeling, there's someone, Prue from our team, she did a 5K run on Friday night with Lululemon. So it was, I'm pretty sure it was the Saturday class, 7 a.m.
She told me this story.
She had a super tight right knee, which always happens, I think she said, past that 3K mark. And I knew it, and it's always in the plan, but I thought, in terms of the joint mobility stuff in the warm-up, I actually had her knee in mind for it. And we did some stuff, and we mobilized the joints and pivoted and twisted and got into like squats and some movement patterns. And by midway through the class, and definitely at the end of the class, she was just like, it's gone. And it had gone away, and the knee felt great. And she was like cruising through the space by the end of the class. So,
she called me. She was that excited to tell me that story. Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
So
we're building some proof. You haven't.
No, she
Perfect.
Was really stoked.
Yeah, cool. So there's that joint mobility aspect to go, my knee, like my digestion's been bad. Do I need to like squeeze and open my stomach, or what needs to happen? Testing it and problem solving in that way. Then there's the coordination and rhythm that's like a little bit more dynamic and bouncy, can be slowed down or taken to extreme intensity, of course, still, to see how springy the body is, how different sides work differently to the other side, if there's any imbalances, and just sensing ourselves in that way, more dynamically, a little bit more chaotic. Then there's the partner game stuff. That's the really dynamic stuff. That is challenging for people, but then, like you and me now, we're in like a dynamic situation here. So the same as why we should train it. And if that's smoother, this will be smoother. That resembles life, because we're just interacting with people all the time. We're not just going to like meditate with our eyes closed and live on a mountain, because then we just have to rock up to work and our partner's going to do something and we want to yell at them, you know? So there's the partner situations. Then there's a few others, but they're like, for me, the three like core and simple ways that we're slowly introducing in the classes to just go, how do I deal with the complexity? What's it showing me that I can't see if I just train by myself and never like interact with anyone? So yeah, that diversity of how we can problem solve as in terms of the physical practice from that recent time was definitely the clearest thing. How we can just like expand our like problem solving capacity and just like breathe calmly in that, be lost, be confused. I felt like for those 5 days, I felt like I moved poorly, you know, and it exposed things. So just, and loving that, like being a student again, like, oh, that's why the goal is just build more rhythm continuously, because tomorrow I'm going to be a day older. Yeah. So the joints have aged a little bit, or I've had soccer, so it's different. And the next day is different again. So yeah.
No, it's a nice reminder, I think, for everyone. Like this practice, it never ends.
Yeah.
And there's never a moment where you get to kind of sit and gloat in it. It's like acknowledge it and then, adapt the next day. Yeah.
And I think it's like, as long as, and then when we say that, it's not that people go like, oh, they're still building towards something. It's like, I'm moving here, but I need to get there. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, and there's always more to build.
Yeah.
if you want to. Yeah.
Like literally, if you want
if
to.
you want to,
if
exactly.
You just
Otherwise,
be in
it is sweet.
Maintenance-y zone and you just want to be feeling good.
It's
that
perfect.
is also sweet.
Exactly, without the pressure on ourselves for it. Yeah.
And I think anyone who meets you, can really see that you embody all those things that you, do practice and you are learning, and it's really something special.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you, and it's more so just for people to, I guess, expand maybe their like online repertoire or things that they're following. Is there anyone in your sphere that you're currently following on Instagram or socials that you would like recommend to our community to also follow along with? Maybe that's through inspiration or someone's journey that you're really liking at the moment, because we do live in a bit of a digital sphere as well as in
digital
the
world.
in-person space.
Definitely. I think I don't know if people know Rick Rubin. So Rick Rubin is just like a super creative mind, has worked with like musicians and bands and artists over the years and like heaps of famous ones. He's started a podcast and that kind of stuff. His Instagram is just like, like little quotes. He came out with a book, I don't know if it was last year or these last couple of years, called The Creative Act, A Way of Living. So he has resonated heaps for the last few years because it is just a way of living. Then there's definitely Fighting Monkey, with just the content they share. It's very blurry and I love the blurriness, but then once you're passionate and curious, it also makes complete sense with clarity. So like we always say, it's like, how can we just share the message authentically with clarity? And then someone else who sometimes come to mind is Marcello Palozzo, I think. So I haven't met him, but know of him, and he's in Europe somewhere. And he kind of shares a little bit of longer form content on Instagram, puts in some humor, is a good communicator, kind of always finishes his reel with like a funny sentence, which is engaging. And I like how he shares the wisdom in a bite-sized, achievable way. He's got like online programs and it all makes sense and is structured really nicely. So there's like, Rick is like the complete philosophy quotes, like thought-provoking stuff. Fighting Monkey is like that middle piece of just following them to just continually be inspired as my main teachers. And then Marcello shares it in a nice way and has like a great reach and communicates it beautifully and consistently. Awesome. They're probably the few that come to mind. That's not bad.
Get the phone
I thought I was going to struggle with that.
No, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
No, well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about yourself.
We have to reverse the roles soon now.
I know. we will do that. If you want to move with Oliver, of course, you can do that here in the studio. That can be in our classes, or you can also do private coaching with him. Yeah. The other thing is Oliver was a big part of our online athletic program. So if you are moving with us online or you're thinking of moving with us online, jump on and do that athletic program. Oliver has so many words of wisdom and a lot of his coordination drills in there. So I would highly, highly recommend that if you want to be exposed to more of what Ollie teaches that's inspired by Fighting Monkey.
Don't be afraid by the name as well of athletic program. That's for anyone. Yeah. With my stuff, your stuff, Matt's stuff. So that's a beautiful mix. That's cool to have some little daily dose that people can do, which is nice. Yeah. And then there'll be some workshops and stuff we plan coming up.
Yeah,
exactly.
So make sure you stay connected on socials.
Stay tuned.
And dive a little deeper in some of those workshops. I cannot wait to be part of them
We're buzzing
as well.
For that.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Beautiful.
Done.